Welcome, 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 everyone. Good afternoon. How's everyone today?
Peace and love.
Awesome.
All right, feeling good.
We
Okay.
celebrate you today. We welcome you to our Zoom Elder Stories, brought to you by New Jersey Performing Arts Center. Shout out to ADP, our sponsor of NJPAC's community engagement. Please be sure to stop by njpac.org for the latest upcoming performances, virtual performances, of course, and follow us on social media at NJPAC. You will find Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Susan, if you can allow people in as I'm introducing, that would be awesome. We just so celebrate you today, and we thank goodness that you are able to have your lunch time with us. How can we face our present if we don't know our past? And at the time when senior citizens, especially those in our communities of color, are particularly vulnerable, we look to our elders that we honor. These are some of our elders from our Council of Elders, and we need their wisdom more than ever. So we thank you for being here today. Today we are joined by Eugene Campbell and Carolyn Wallace and Deborah Gregory, all three of whom are on our Elders Council. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to Susan Pope, an ED Doctor of Education candidate at Columbia University. She is the founder of I Dance Because, which is a nonprofit organization that offers social and emotional education to all at-risk youth through dance. She is the dance educator at First Avenue Elementary, and she's actually one of our writers for the TRGs, our teacher resource guides. She has been on our writing team for that team for a number of years. Let us now hear from Susan Pope, who will then introduce you to our chairperson of the Council of Elders, Deborah Smith Gregory. Susan Pope.
Hello, everyone. It is so good to see everyone. I am so honored to be here with our elders, with all of you as an educator in Newark Public Schools and as a student in doctoral studies for dance education. You know, I'm looking at how our life stories can inform us, because many times our stories are left out of history. And we have so much wisdom in our community. And at the onset of this pandemic, it would just touch my heart to see how many of our elders and how much wisdom we were losing. So there's an old African proverb that says, when an old man dies, library burns to the ground. And so we are here to just listen at our elders, to sit at their feet, and to hear how their stories can help us teach children in these perilous times. I want to introduce you now to Deborah Smith Gregory, who's our president of the NAACP and just a phenomenal educator as well. Deborah Smith Gregory.
Good afternoon. A retired educator by choice, but always working to lift public awareness and to inspire our future. I just want to welcome everyone to this lunchtime conversation. We hope that by the end of it, you have been able to honor our past and be inspired by what we say that we see for the future. We need to look at them both, what has been in the past and moving forward, what we are to do. So welcome everyone.
So as we get started, we know that Newark Public Schools has, local control has been given back to Newark Public Schools, but we have with us today a former superintendent of Newark Public Schools, Eugene Campbell. And Eugene Campbell, if you would just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you and your relationship with Newark Public Schools.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Let me make a correction because you sent out several notices in reference to this meeting. One said the first Black superintendent, no. I was not the first Black superintendent. The first one was Stanley Taylor, who came in. Stanley Taylor came in, and at that particular time, because of the significant problems that the state thought, or the state said, we're having here. You understand, in most districts, you have a superintendent, then you have a secretary to the board, et cetera. But in Newark, it was changed during Stanley Taylor's tenure. It became the executive superintendent, meaning the superintendent was in charge of the entire district. There was no longer a secretary to the board. Now that becomes very significant in the city of Newark, because prior to that, during Adonicio's administration, he tried to make some changes, or he tried to put someone in as a secretary to the board who had as much education, as never mind. And we had Wilbur Parker, who was one of the first Black CPAs in New Jersey, who were being considered for that particular position. After Stanley Taylor came in and left, and I have some problems with that, with him leaving personally. I was his administrative assistant. Then Alonzo Cottrell's succeeded Stanley Taylor, and he became the superintendent. And then Alonzo decided to leave on his own, and Columbus Sally came in, and that became another situation. And then after Columbus Sally left, then yours truly came into the position. I served with each one of them in one way or the other position. But coming up through the system was quite interesting for me, the person. I was a teacher at Cleveland Elementary School. I taught elementary school and then became a language arts teacher there. And then I left and then became first principal at First Avenue School during the summer. I did a summer position there. And then from there, I came into Robert Treat Elementary School. And then it's all history after that as far as principalships and working in the central office. It was quite interesting.
Sure, you must have so many stories, so many experiences of things that you had to deal with in your tenure. So we want to hear some of those stories, but I also want to introduce Carolyn Wallace, who is the CEO of IYO. So Carolyn, would you introduce yourself and just tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally got in. Okay.
You're here.
There's not much to tell. I've been, here at IYO since 1970, running the youth program through ups, downs, good times, bad times. And there's nothing really to say. We've had, over the last 50 years, some 40,000 families that have come through. Our first set of graduates are doing well. The second group did fairly well. Third one hung on, but the fourth group of graduates is what we should be concerned about. So right now, I'm in the process of developing some new leadership to take the agency into the future. At 85, it's time for me to say, okay, somebody else has to move this, especially in the particular time that we're in, where everything has to be done a little differently. For instance, it took me an hour to figure out how to get on this Zoom call. So it is time for somebody else to do this.
It's so interesting, both of you, just how times have come full circle. Because Eugene, as I know you've said before, you were superintendent at the time when the district was taken over. And Carolyn, some of the things that prompted you to start IYO are similar to the times that we're going through now.
Exactly. Like I had explained before, I didn't start IYO. It was James Wallace who, eventually we got married, but it was his idea. We were, at the time, the group that was together, we weren't thinking about youth programming so much as we, right after the disturbances, was talking about building new housing. And that's how it all started. Basically from building new housing that would take us into the, into, I guess, the 20th century, I guess, because a lot of the property in Newark when I grew up, we didn't have inside bathrooms on Prince Street, Charlton Street. So we looked at the new, like this turn right now we're going through. I think we also went through that turn at the beginning of 1969 and 1970. So to compare that to now, the technology may be different, but I think it's still the same turning point where you're going into a new era. So starting out, well, it was not my idea. It was just something that came about because after we built Hill Mountain Brick Towers, there wasn't anything for the young people to do. It started out simple as that, without a plan, without anything that would think that we would be here still to this day.
Yes. And I want to ask both of you, just thinking about when you first started, Eugene, when you first started with, either when you first started as a teacher or, in the beginning of your position as superintendent, what were some of the obstacles you had to overcome in your early career?
First, I'd like to congratulate Carolyn because she took on a charge that has made a big difference. And even when working at central office and dealing with IYR, she and Jim Wallace made such a difference for all those families in the city of Newark and in that particular area. She did an excellent job in continuing to do that, even though she claims herself of being 84 young or so, but she's doing an excellent job. So I want to say that about her. But coming into the district, back then, in 1960, becoming a teacher at Cleveland School. And it was a similar type problems that we have now. I walked into a classroom, which I couldn't believe. I had like 40 kids in my class, 38 and growing of the number of students. And fortunately, I had some good people around me, like a Howard Season, both Mickey Horton, God bless them, both of them passed. And we were teaching right next door to each other. And it was a difference in trying to get some understanding and also working with students out of the projects. It was very exciting, even doing one of my degrees, doing a whole study of what was going on down on 17th Avenue, et cetera, with some students. It was just great, a good experience. However, what became very, very important as far as I'm concerned is what I try to tell my student teachers that we've been dealing with, have some purpose and to deal with our students, have some purpose and have a goal. And as a teacher, we have to have some, passion for being with our students and give them a belief system that we can really work together with. And I think that carried over for me through my entire career of dealing with those particular areas. And also to have some understanding where some people try to not really deal with it in a very positive way, is to be emotionally, as Gregory Wright in Newark said years ago, be emotionally and culturally interested in our children and our people. And I just added another aspect to that, to be emotionally, culturally, and intellectually concerned with our students. To teach them, they have to have a belief system. And where do we go from here becomes very, very important. I think for our people, today more than ever, I think it's so important.
That is so true. Carolyn, and what were some of your beginning obstacles, things that you had to overcome?
I think I had to do a lot of learning. I credit Gene for some of that. Eugene Campbell was the only person that would have a community meeting inside of a community meeting that would disrupt into a community meeting. And we'd always say, what happened? Gene Campbell was a master of trying to get people to move in the direction that he knew we should go at the board. Him and Elaine Brody, I will never forget the way they could turn a meeting around. And I'm hoping that the new group that's marching now, I see a lot of knowledge, but I'm not sure the wisdom that's there needs to be there. So the obstacles that we faced were, I think, not knowing that we didn't know that what we needed to know and what we were trying to do. Say, for instance, when we built the housing, nobody thought about what's going to happen with the children in the building so that, the property would remain, in a way that we had thought it would be. So right away, that brought about, needing to rethink the process. So for me, the obstacle was just learning all the time on what needed to be done and how everything in Newark could fit together during those times. But the obstacles, there wasn't as many obstacles now because I think there was a togetherness at that point. Everybody was trying to go to school, get an education, get a white picket fence someplace in the suburbs, and everything would be all right. And that's all we aimed for. And, we didn't know that there was a road that you couldn't cross over when you talked about everybody going into that area, because there was no real, and Gene, you can correct me, there was no real plan to actually build Newark to last forever. We were talking about building Newark only in the aspects of building people to move out of Newark.
Right. I mean, after a period of time, yes, they was hoping that we would just disappear, et cetera, et cetera. And so we didn't disappear, things happened, and there's a reason for things happening. But right now, as I listen to Carol when she's speaking, right now, I do have faith in what's going to happen in Newark. Because I think Raz Baraka, I think, has some understanding about where we are and where we should be going. I think I have faith in him doing that. Now, there were obstacles, Carol, and especially being elevated to that position of superintendent. And I watched each superintendent. I watched Stanley Taylor take a beating unnecessarily. In my opinion, being there and watching him, I mean, emotionally, when he left, I'm gonna be honest with you, I cried. I couldn't believe that. What I couldn't believe was how some black people in quote unquote power would do that to a black man. Back then, I couldn't believe that. So therefore, I elected to leave. And then Alonzo called me. I was at Equipment Street School for about 5 to 6 months. And unfortunately, Dr. Deputy died and Pfeffer died. And Alonzo said, would I come down and be deputy superintendent? I mean, I had to think very hard about that because every superintendent I watched had a board they had to deal with. And you want to tell me something that's a little difficult is to try to deal with 9 board members with 9 different agendas. Mm-hmm. So ergo, right now, I think we have a leadership in the city of Raz who I think understands those particular areas. And I think will do what has to be done to make a difference. Because the state came in here because it was, just look at the jobs, et cetera. They controlled everything. And what happened when they came in, we had to leave. We being black, those in black leadership had to leave. And we have to understand that and where we are and where we're going. And I think right now, I think someone is there who will make a difference because as Einstein said, if you always do what you've always did, you'll always get what you always got. I think that's gonna change, hopefully, in the city of Newark as it relates educationally and where the city is going.
I wanna weigh in on what was said about the wing to the suburbs. And that was not everyone. We had
it should be
middle.
Listening to the speaker.
Pamela, can you mute yourself, please?
You okay?
Pamela, mute yourself.
I'm sorry, I had to mute you for a minute. I'm sorry.
Thank you. What I was saying is that there was a strong middle class in Newark, a Black middle class in Newark, that the children who were going to school could see in their neighborhood. Judge Hazelwood, may he rest in peace, lived in the neighborhood. The mayor's mother and father lived in the neighborhood. On Shepherd Avenue, the Reed family lived in the neighborhood. So we had role models of people who were there looking out for us and showing us how we could elevate ourselves to a position of a middle class. Somewhere along the way, what's happened in Newark was right after the rebellion, there was also an influx of drugs. There were always drugs in our community. It might be, I can remember when it was heroin, just like it is today, but it wasn't the people who were addicted attempted to at least hide it, wear the long sleeves, even though there was evidence of the addiction. But our community was flooded with drugs. And so people who did not want to continue to live with that risk of life and injury and devastation did move out. But had a very strong middle class, Black middle class community that the young people looked up to. Julius Ward was who was also known as Honey Ward, who's one of our elders. He would hold court in a local restaurant on West Kinney Street and talk to all of the young people who came in and out of there. We don't have places like that. IYO, International Youth Organization, provides a place for young people to go. And when I was in the Newark public school systems, many of the principals sent their children to IYO, the ones that they said, no, these young people need extra attention, extra help. They're not able to navigate in the mainstream of the school with over 1,000 students. They need that touch. And that is what IYO provided. And from that, they were able to graduate and go on to be productive citizens in our community. Most of them are still in our community, and some of them have moved away. So I just wanted to say that the influx of drugs in our community destabilized it. And to be honest, I would say that influx and the flooding of drugs was not a coincidence. It was by design.
Definitely. And, when you talk about the influence that those leaders in our community had on the children, on all of us in the community, that makes such a difference. So I have a couple of questions for all of you. One, do you think that those role models are here now? Do you think our students, our educators have those role models now? But specifically, I want to know, what were some of your role models during that time? Like, what were some of the people that you looked up to or that helped you to get into teaching that may have encouraged you in your educational journey?
I mean, I had a very strong mother who was like my best friend, who always said, and I had a very strong godmother. I mean, I had to knock down Metropolitan Church every Sunday with her. And go home and go to her house and eat, and then walk from Avon Place, past Carolyn Place up on my chalk, and get to 5 Kennedy, and go up to a storefront church up in East Orange and get some down home. Oh my goodness. I mean, I was so glad when I became a teenager. So I was able to give up one. I didn't have to go up to East Orange too much, to that storefront. But I had individuals who said there's a difference in life. Now I came through the drug thing, you know. I'm not. I have family who was into all of that, and what Gregory was saying, and understanding those things. However, I had friends back in the day who said, you can't hang.
Right. That's
You
right.
can't with us. I said, what do you mean? I said, I had to make a decision in my life, and they helped make that decision saying, you know, you like school, go ahead to school, go ahead, do what you have to do, but you can't come with me.
Right.
My older brother, one of my older brother who was involved, he said no. And another one like a brother, I couldn't be with them anymore. They wouldn't let me go with them anymore. So I didn't get into that, you know. I don't know what it is to be high, to be very honest with you. So it was the life I was able to get away from because of friends who understood what I was interested in doing, and so therefore protected me and kept me from some other things. That becomes, I think, very important. We have, and I carry that over into teaching. That each one teach one. All of my students, you know, and some that I know now by name that will go back with me 40 years. And we had a relationship, and I said, this is extremely important. We have to be responsible for each other. That becomes very, very, very important. Even as a teacher, and then as a principal. In each school that I was in, and there's 5 different schools, I was principal in Newark, and each one was a so-called problem. But I'll guarantee you it wasn't a problem after the first year. We had to deal with each other and help out each other and work with each other.
I love that you had friends that, although they might have been going down the wrong road or a different direction, that they looked out for you.
And I had that similar experience. Everybody, no matter how high they were, the alcoholics most said, okay, girl, it's time for you to go in the house, you know, because I would want to hang out. So I think two things I think we had in common, and that was going to church. You went to church and got that experience of going to church. I mean, we went to church on Saturday, 7-day Christians. And so I was in church from sunup Saturday morning till sundown Saturday night for, I don't know how many years, ended up about 50 years. So I think there was a little more stabilization than I see now. Because most of my young people who are, by the way, Gene, these are the children of the first set of children that I had. These are the grandchildren. So they come to our way and say, oh, Ms. Wallace, you know my grandmother. You know, I'm saying, who's your grandmother? I said, okay, it's time for me to go home. So I think we lost something, Deborah, during that time that you're talking about with the drugs and the destruction of the family. And I think everything that people said they were going to do in the community, I think it was damaging. I remember folks that had to get on assistance and how they could not have their husbands home with them. I remember that you destroyed the family like that. So I think all of those, and I believe that it was deliberate.
Of course.
The whole project thing was deliberate. The project, I used to tell people, the project is nothing but a large apartment building. Stop thinking because you live there, you have to be something that you're not. And I think they drilled that in us. You were poor, you had to get high, you know, you didn't have any manners, all of that project living. What does that mean? Everything is a project. Going to church is a project. So I think some of the things that they were able to use against us, and we were so busy fighting all the other bullets, I don't think we had the opportunity or the armor to ward off all the bullets that was coming in the community at the time.
So I just want to say, I think we all had similar experiences. And I had people who told me, no, you're not going to do that. So there is a setting apart, but it was our peers recognizing that we had something else to do. And while they knew that what they were doing was not correct, they also knew that they needed to protect us from doing something foolish, and just because we want to party and we want to have a good time, and and it's like, no, like Miss Wallace said, no, it's time for you to go home. I heard that too. It's time for you to go home. I have a question that came that's in the chat, and it's from a young man that I know, who is a product of the Newark public school system. One of the things that I think is lacking now is our connectivity. Everything is about relationships, and when Gene and Carolyn were in the height of what they were doing, as well as myself, we all had relationships because we're all connected in one way or the other. We have to go back to that and reach out. It's like what Gene said, each one teach one, but we also have to be willing to step out on faith and take a risk on people as well. This young man says, how can upcoming educational leaders get their foot in the door to make positive impacts in the school district? Education is too political, and that hinders progress. So Gene, you wanna speak to that? Because I know you have something to say about that.
Everything we do is a political decision, and there's no question about getting into the system. And I think, as I was telling Susan before, I don't have no problem talking to a group of kids who are interested in teaching, or interested in just in their life in general, that we take some time as elders. Let's talk to some of them who are having, like you said, a problem like this. I came into teaching, and I left Charlton. I went to Charlton Street School. I think Charlton Street School. Mind you, in Charlton Street School, I had one black teacher, Kitty F. Jones, in the 4th grade. All my teachers were white. I'll name every single teacher I had in Charlton Street School, elementary school. Why do I remember them? I don't know. The last one was Miss Worthman up in the 8th grade, who really cared for me. I thought she really liked me because she saw me do something that she had no business doing. And she said, Eugene, I'll never ever let you see that again. And she saved me from being embarrassed. But anyway, it's what we need to do is understand where they are and where they are and where they want to go. We have to help them along that particular line. That's why I give Raz a lot of praise right now. This is hey, I think he knows what's going on. In our school system, we need to have, we couldn't get certain positions. Let me tell you what we did at Organization of Negro Educators. That was ONE. We changed just one. Do you know black teachers, most of the black teachers were subs. And during that particular time, with Fred Means president, working there with him, I know I drew up the piece that anyone who's been in this system for more than 3 years in a day and we're getting satisfactory evaluation have to be a regular teacher. And a lot of black teachers came in under that particular thing that we passed years ago. It was very difficult because in the North, the South Ward was pretty good because another ethnic group was over there controlling things educationally through the city of Newark. But in the North Ward and the East Ward, things were happening. And they were controlling certain things and trying to leave us out of the lurch. And you mentioned like Honey Ward and others who would speak out against some things. And too many of us let things happen politically, I think, where I look back on it. And I think today we have to have our kids be more involved. And more than anything, we need to have them say, hey, they better be able to vote. All of them must understand the process of voting. We have to understand that process. By any means necessary, we have to make a difference. I think who really revolutionized this city, well, some may agree, some may disagree, but I went to church with him every Sunday morning at 502 High Street.
Yeah.
Amiri Baraka said, this is where we meet. We met every Sunday morning. Honey Ward was there, Gibson was there, Earl Harris was there, to make a difference in this city because we were controlled by a minority group until he came in and said, look, these are some things that we're going to do. And for another lesson in politics in the city of Newark, we need to talk about that. Because some people will turn their head and let others govern us. And we have to know how to name ourselves, define ourselves, and speak for ourselves. And that's what we need our students to be able to do right now in the city of Newark.
And I would also say that, so when, to make the connection stronger, when a person that we know puts in a resume, say with the Newark Board of Education, and that's where they want to be, that they let someone know that they did that, someone that they know who is still active with the Board of Education. That is how things happen. That is the relationship of things. So for people who have, for the young people who are watching this, who have a doctorate or a master's in education, and you want to be in the school system, the Newark school system. When I came into the Newark school system, it's sort of like what Gene said. Like there were teachers that, there was a teacher that gave me an application to go to college. It was not the guidance counselor. The guidance counselor said, oh, everyone is going to Essex County College because it was just opening up. So she gave everyone from Central High School, my alma mater, unless they were in the top 10, which I was not, to go to Essex County College on Beaver Street. A teacher, my Spanish teacher, Miss Isla Martin, gave me the application to Seton Hall and said, you give this back to me. Don't take it to the guidance counselor. She walked my application through Seton Hall, and that is where I am a graduate of, because of her. So we have to reach, like when we say each one teach one, we have to reach out, give me the application, let me do something, or tell me, and that's all of us, because Gene and Carolyn and the elders, we still got juice. All right, we are inside of this community, we are embedded in this community, and we can help people. Now, someone just asked a question about what ethnic group were you being controlled by at the time. Well, I'm gonna let Gene answer that about Ali and Adonisio.
Oh, please. I mean, there was no question about it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't tell too many people this, but I came back in when Columbus Sally left. There was some problems that need to be straightened out really immediately. So I came back and was working on some things, but I wasn't named the superintendent. I didn't become the superintendent until December, because I knew there were a group in the North and the East who, because of my associations, affiliations, and like I said, who I work with and deal with on every day of my life, they didn't like that idea. Of course they didn't. So it took until December then. But fortunately, there was enough board members to say, okay, and I put someone else in who became the acting superintendent until December of 84. Now, it's imperative to understand what was taking place. Remember I mentioned to you about Adonisio wanting to put in a councilman who didn't know up from down, and here was a person on the side who had a first CPA, black CPA, I think in New Jersey. He became in that position, secretary of the board. Why would he want someone else to be the secretary of the board? Because at that particular time, they control the finances. Whomever has the gold rules, the golden rule, and that's why they came in to take the Board of Education, the Newark Board of Education. Listen, watch, I left them with a surplus of millions of dollars, a surplus, millions of dollars that were go to do some things for our children. And within a year, they had a deficit. What happened to the money? The question today is, what happened to those millions of dollars in a surplus? You know, I worked with all those different superintendents. I knew where the money was. I knew where to hide money. I knew where to put this and that, et cetera. But I knew, as Governor Kane once said to me over by Barringer High School, the governor said to me, he said, in doing budgets, you always plan for a rainy day because you never know when it's going to rain. And he was right, because we had some rainy days. I knew where the rainy day money was in my budget. And when I left them with a lot of rainy day money that became a storm to them because they went buck wild with it, and we didn't profit from it. The city of the children didn't profit from that. It went to others who didn't look like us. I'm gonna be honest. Ask anyone who were the consultants who were hired.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Carolyn, there's, you've educated so many in the community, and there's a question in the chat from Jaquetta that wants to know, what advice do you have for youth leaders that look to activate our other youth leaders in the community to focus more on impact instead of praise?
I really practice the impact on making some results orientated, you're talking about, to make sure that there is some success at the end of whatever you're doing. I'm not quite sure what the question actually means. What is that? What is the person looking to do?
I think they're asking, how do you activate other youth leaders in the community? So we have, we have our educators in the classroom, but then we have, like in your organization, our youth leaders who are helping in after school programs, in community programs. And how do we activate our youth leaders to focus more on impacting our youth, impacting our young people instead of just praising them?
Well, I think for us, it's always been, since my husband, Eugene, and them, they were all into the political system because that's where change has to come. So I think for us at IYO, I try to make sure that the young people understand what brings about change.
Right.
Like right now, you can march all you want, but if you don't go vote and use the system that's established to control itself, then you don't win. So I try to motivate young people to be a part of that process because it leads to other things. Right now, I can't even say I do a lot of that because of the particular dilemma that we are working with a population of young people that are not ready to even think about that, okay? So it's developing leadership now is a real challenge because I have to get rid of all that other stuff that has happened over the years. So if you're going to make an impact, I guess you got to find a way to do it with what works most effectively. And we can always know that getting involved with a group of people to start something that can make change is one of the ways to go. And that can be anything like a civic association, because I'm really surprised at how many of our young people, Gene, do not understand the political system in our country. I'm amazed, and these are college graduates. I'm not talking about the regular young person that I'm concerned about. I'm talking about some of the young people that I bring in as staff. They don't know the political system. So they were surprised when we were talking about a Supreme Court who is appointed for a lifetime.
Right.
And they were not aware of that. So I think we failed in that string to make sure that whatever knowledge you gain goes directly toward what you have to, what war you're in and what you have to do. And to not have civics in our community the way they used to be, along with math, reading, and writing, I think is a mistake. So not quite sure how you develop leadership. It has to be something that you want to do, and you have to find where you fit in to make something happen. And that's very, very difficult. But are there a lot of avenues for that? Yes, there are.
There's another question, and this is a very easy one to answer. I'm looking to join the Camden City School District Long-Term Comprehensive School Planning Committee. As a district that has experienced state control and in our current climate and culture, would you recommend I do push for equity for the children of Camden?
Why not? Why shouldn't they have equity? I mean, what's the purpose going there? Our children don't come ready-made, they come as is. We have to understand what our children need. First, you have to, if you're gonna go into the system, do you believe in our children? Do you believe in saying, I'm gonna help someone? Do you understand what they need in their life and what's taking place in their condition as it is right now? What's the purpose of being there if you're not there to help? We have a lot of criticism, but we need someone to help and understand. I have children. Here I'm dealing with 4th grade students. You know how old they are, from 8 to 10. And I told my students, you do not have to ask me to go to the laboratory. If you have to go, you can go. However, you have to understand the process. You just first had to know how to tell time. You have to know the reason. Now, all that had to take place. You have to tell time because you have to sign yourself out and sign yourself back in. And you have to know when you go there, you're going to the laboratory. And you go there for particular reasons. So therefore, the words were written on the board. Of course, they started laughing at first when I'm writing up the purpose of going to the laboratory. Now, these are 4th graders. If there's a problem, then you have to tell me about that problem. Because I want to make sure, because I love you, I'm going to make sure you need some help, if you need some medical help. But if you should go out of this classroom and act up and be disruptive, then you are now violating our process. And therefore, you'll be punished for it. You then have to ask me to go to the bathroom. But you have to understand the process. Or you may have to have your parents to bring you in some Depends or something. Yours said, this is what we're going to do in our community. And we have to care for each other. And anytime something happens. The last part about this principal said we're going to the World's Fair. It was in New York. Some of you youngins may not know about that. So she said, Eugene, where's your list of students? So I gave her my list. So I gave her a list of approximately 38 students to go to the World's Fair. She said, well, you're supposed to select some students. I said, I did. Either we all go or we all stay home.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to, how do I now discriminate against one of those kids? I couldn't do that. No, all of my students, we come together. And that's what some street workers need to understand too. And they have to understand politics. Why do you don't understand? How they get elected? What's the purpose, etc. That's what I'm saying. We need to have purpose and have a belief system. And plus today, in 2020, what's going on, when we see someone who's head this country, if he's not the devil personified, there'll never be another devil. Please. He's the unifying force for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. You bring up such a good point about the teacher's intention for going into the classroom, the teacher's intention for teaching. And if you truly do love these students and care about them, it guides the way in which you teach. There is another really important question. What lessons have you learned about parent engagement? We have a viewer who's the parent liaison at Newark Vocational High School and the parent co-chair for Essex County Council for Young Children. So what, for all of you, what lessons have you learned about parent engagement?
Well, we know it's the key to success now. It's one of the keys. So if the parents are not engaged. And I watched that decline too, Gene. I mean, when we started all this, all the parents were there. And I've watched over the years a decline in that. But yet, I'm not quite sure understand how the charter schools can demand parent participation or else, but the public schools could not. And that kind of confused me. But by that time, I had left the educational conversation. But it also bothers me right now, how can one same money, but be governed by two different rules and regulations? Now that was not allowed during our time. Right.
You know why? What is such? I don't believe in charter schools personally. However, they're there. I've helped a few, free of charge, go and help them whatever they were trying to do at one time or another. But they just segregated us again. Mm-hmm. And take out some and give to them and give together.
Exactly.
Charter school is so good, then let's duplicate it.
Right.
That's what my belief was when if you have a charter school that's so good, let's go in and duplicate, because we're sharing my money. We're putting the same bucks up there. It's just taking away from one to the other. I have a strong feeling about parents. Again, there are a lot of parents, it's very difficult for them to deal with their children at times because they haven't learned, some of them, how to do some things with their children. I mean, I'm a parent of half a dozen kids, and I know what problems I had, and I thought I knew what I was doing until I found out some things. You have to sit and understand what's going on out there. Our children need ones who will say, let's understand each other. And there's some rules and regulations that have to be followed. And that becomes key. There's some rules and regulations out there. I'd rather walk through 100 thieves in the street than to walk through 100 police officers. And that has been my feeling since I was a young kid. You know, and I know it's worse. It's almost like it hasn't changed. It's basically the same. So I'm saying what we have to do is, hey, let's respect each other. I have parents and sit down and talk with them, with their children, and have to tell their children that that's your mother, that's your father. That's the one we're supposed to respect regardless, and have them have understanding. But it's how you treat someone, and our children have to understand this. Your street workers have to understand it. The teacher of all, you have all those kids in the classroom have to understand it. And the difference in the charter school and the public schools is because they put demands out there, and the parents want the demands. They want the kids to succeed. If you bring them into the classroom, they will succeed if you have enough people in there who know what they were doing. You have to have someone at the top to say, this is what it's going to be.
And Carolyn, I think that you can definitely testify to when you have your graduations, the parents of your students come out to support them. They may not have been able to support them for the whole along the way of them coming to IYO every day and making sure that they came on time, etc. But at your graduations, the parents are there.
Yeah, and these are the kids who said, you know, everybody said they couldn't make it or they couldn't do it. Or, you know, they just got caught up. I think they dropped out. A lot of my young Black males dropped out of school in the 4th grade mentally. And we tried to teach young Black boys the way we teach little girls. And I'm not sure how we're going to be able to change that, because there's certain ways you have to learn and certain things you have to do. But at the graduation, the parents are proud of the fact, parents, grandparents, that they came back and they tried it again. And for those that finally get a high school diploma, the family is elated to make sure that happened. And I guess they had just lost hope. It had definitely, the kids have been out there 5, 6, 7 years doing all kinds of stuff. And I guess they were elated that they came back to try it one more time. And it is really rewarding to see that they do care. I'm not quite sure on how and what has happened to make caring not visible. You know what I'm saying? So we think they don't care, but then when I see them come back, no matter what condition they're in, they do care. And that's a mystery to me. So how can we, you know, what do you do about that? What's the next group going to do to answer that particular problem?
We know we have so many, you know, between the parents and in our community that care about our children. And I'm thinking about the lessons that you have talked about, even, you know, the civics and community service, but just some of the lessons that you've learned just from the street, the lessons that you've learned from other elders, from the wisdom that you've gained. How do we take this, knowing that it's not included in any of our curriculums? How do our teachers and our teacher educators take this and package it in a way to give it to our children?
Well, for me, exposure works. And that's kind of expensive because nobody wants to fund it. But if you take someone, even the worst of what we could call the worst of my young people, and take them into another environment, it changes them. And it's, you know, sometimes I look at it and say, oh boy, this can't be true. But it's knowing that your world is not the world. This little thing that you have, this is not the world. So now let's go see some of the other parts of the world. You know, we always say it's a small world. It's not a small world. It's a small world economically, because all of us economically live in certain areas. But I know that exposure works. Like I said, when my husband started the program, and the first set of young people that were there, including our present mayor and the mayor of Irvington, they all went through the civic things that my husband and Mary Baraka would have here. They got a chance to see a wider view of the world. And now, when I take somebody who's been out of school 6 years, I'll never forget this. I took him. We went to Bradley Beach. I mean, big deal. What is that? And when he was there, the expression on his face, no, that was Asbury Park, I'm sorry, Asbury Park. He was sitting on the railing, and some of the other programs who are not, were not African-American, they looked at him and said, wow, he just discovered something. What did he discover? The ocean? So I'm saying, I'm not sure that I think everybody's getting knowledge of some kind, but they're not getting a well-rounded exposure to things. And so they think that, they look at me sometime when I'm angry with them, and they say, what's you so mad? What's you mad with me about, Miss Walsh? I'm saying, do you know what you just did? And they just don't know that they don't know that they don't know. And I don't know where do you go to get that message into everybody's head, to realize that right now I'm talking to the young people on Willoughby Street. What you're doing, you're buying into your own destruction, because the enemy is going to say, see, they don't deserve anything. And if you don't understand that you're destroying not only you, but your future kids or whatever, how do you get that message to know when we could not do something and what the consequences were, not only for us, but for all of us that were in the group? I don't think that's being taught, and I don't know if it can be taught.
I think it could be. There has to be some revelations. Most kids, most people don't want to be judged. Don't judge me. Help me, and be awakening for me. And I think that becomes key. How do you wake up someone and make things happen? And we need that today. I don't know, I'm getting stuff jumping off my mind.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was just me. So.
No, we're unfortunately getting so close to the end of our programming, but I just wanted to say thank you and leave with the little video of IYO. If some of our participants are not familiar with it, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
I see some, oh.
And also keep in mind, sometimes there's a disconnect. It doesn't mean that they're coming off disrespectful. They old school. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to give them that respect. And like Elliot just said, if there's an issue, you come to Elliot, and you come to myself. That's how you handle things when you have a job. Right?
Remember, when you roll in, that's why she comes with us too. All the time. See what your skills are. So when it's time for jobs, you know you're how you work.
All right, team, let's go.
Oh my God.
Hi, I'm Mariana Williford, and this is the Willing Heart Community Care Center. We are an outreach center of the Metropolitan Baptist Church, and we feed the community every Tuesday evening, and we also have a food pantry every Tuesday. We give out clothing, and as well as special activities throughout the year. And the kids today are helping us bag up extra items that we receive. We have fresh potatoes that we'll be giving out this evening. We have jelly packets and some eating utensils that we'd like to provide extras for the kids. So they're helping us bag all the extras as well as get ready for dinner this evening.
My name is Jessica Sylvester. I've been at NYO for 5 months now.
it's a great program. I've been coming out to the church every Tuesday to, help the community. And it's a great program. It's fun. They care about you a lot.
Hi, my name is John Cruz. I attended the IYO youth program. I've been there since November. I've been studying from the beginning of the days. I study, getting academic. That we have work site. I've done tiling for Mr. K in the building. I've worked on the back of Pierce Street, handling garbage and demolition. On Tuesdays, I come here to the Willem Hart to community service. How about canned food, pack potatoes, provide juice, make drinks, and IYO, for IYO, I wouldn't be where I am today in my life. I was stuck at one point, but I'm glad I got the opportunity from Ms. Wallace to attend our program and to achieve, my life and move on forward to greater things to do. So now I got my high school diploma and I have my transition officer helping me get a job out there in the real work life. I'm very grateful for everything they've done for me.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both, just for being who you are and just all that you've given to our community and all that you continue to pour into our community. You are truly our pearls of wisdom.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Thank you. It's great.
It's really important that people know who the elders are and what contributions we have made and are making. And we're here for those who are coming behind us. Yes, our shoulders are broad and strong and you can stand on our shoulders, but we won't fish for you, but we can show you how to fish.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Excellent.
Was good. I hope it's worthwhile.
Absolutely. We want to thank you on behalf of New Jersey Performing Arts Center. Again, for those who came in a little later than the very beginning, we thank you for being with us this afternoon with our Elders Stories. We are so excited that this is one of many to come, and it is sponsored by ADP, the sponsor of NJPAC's Community Engagement. We do have a new platform, NJPAC.org/solidarity. And we have an amazing array of social justice conversations that we're hosting. Please visit njpac.org and look for us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and get in where you fit in. Once a month, we will be featuring films and strong conversations about our current conditions, and we want you there. We want to hear your voices and see your faces. We also have DJ dance parties on Thursdays, Wellness Wednesdays, dancing, all free programming right now. Although we pressed the pause button in this season, we are on intermission. Our building is closed, but our programming will continue on. I thank you all for being here. Thank you, Co-Chair Deborah Smith-Gregory, and to our elders, Eugene Campbell and Carolyn Wallace. We so appreciate you. And to our PhD student, Susan Pope. We appreciate you being here today. Join us again next month. The information was shared in the chat, and please get in where you fit in.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Yes. Praise God.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
In
Take
your
care.
living room. Thank you.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Peace out.
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 Yeah, Gene Campbell about peace.
Yeah. Hi, Gene.
Hi.
About peace.
Good to see you.
My pleasure. You got a lot of snow up top and around the face, huh?
Yeah, right.
Albert.
Whoa. Wow.
Okay.
We're on for a while.
See you all next month.
Thank you.
Yes.
question. How do you get a list of names of you wonderful people to chat it up and get more information on how to be the next generation of future leaders? Like, how do I get Mr. Campbell's information, Spoke's information, Wallace, or is that general information, or you have to be chosen to get this information?
No, if you registered, I believe we can email it to you. Or if you even just send an email to NJPAC with whatever specific information that you want, and that could be sent to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
It's an honor. Thank you. See you next month. Or I mean the month after.
August and September, yep.
August, my birthday. Cheers, I'll be there.
Okay, great. We'll celebrate with you.
God bless.
God bless.
Cheers.
I guess that's it.
Yep, that's it. Eugene and
Okay.
Carol did a
All right. Have a great day.
Have a great day.
All right, take care.
Thank you,
Right.
Deborah. Bye-bye, baby.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was nice. Do you want to have the to come by?
Were you able to? Oh, you did? How was it? I brought your name up. You know, I brought the superintendents up. And I indicated you know, the superintendents, because they sent something out, like I was the first, but I said no. Then I gave them the list of the superintendents and how you picked me out to become your deputy, et cetera, right after stamp. Yeah, you know, who came up, et cetera, et cetera. So it was, I think so. New Jersey PAC controls it, so I think you could probably get into it. Yeah, so you're working then. Do you go to the office or is it? Oh, so you do go in then? Oh.
Now, we're going to close this chat now. We appreciate you. Do you have each other's number so you can stay connected? Have a great afternoon, everyone.